hit that on purpose. Welcome everybody to the Land Use Committee on August 21st, 2012. To all you here in Carnegie Town Hall. And did I disturb you with that pounding? Not quite as loud as Jim Enneman does it, but I guess I did hit it a little hard. And for all you that are at home and Channel 16 viewing, thank you for attending. Our approval or our agenda is there at the door as you came in, and I would urge you or ask you to sign in if you haven't already signed in as being part of the committee today. No more sign in. I was just informed that we don't do sign in anymore. We have cameras that are on you that we run through a database, and we know every one of you and everything that is about you when we do this. So don't worry about it anymore. That's not the way it is? Okay, we got it. Denise has got us on it. So the first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from Monday, July 30th. I would entertain a motion to approve those.
So moved, Karski.
Second, Anderson.
And appreciate that. Any discussion? If none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. First order of discussion today, our item on the agenda is zoning ordinance amendments. And Jeff Schmidt is not here, but Tracy, are you here? Or, I'm sorry, Sam, Tracy, Sam.
Thank you.
Trebilcock is here.
Yeah, thank you. Sam Trebilcock, City of Sioux Falls Planning Office. Jeff couldn't be here. He had a couple other things to attend to. I want to try to spend a little bit of time, and I'm keep it short because on a zoning ordinance you can get long pretty quickly. But at least give you an idea where we're at with the zoning ordinance and what you'll be seeing over the rest of the fall. We are ready to start bringing this forward to you for in-depth review of the entire zoning ordinance. You'll start seeing that here soon. We've tried to bring something forward that is inconsistent with the comprehensive plan, and we'll talk about that in a second. As you can see, we're trying to also bring something forward that is identifying with the zoning ordinance, something that people can recognize a little bit, and in something that's consistent with the plan, that shaped places, we're calling that the zoning ordinance. And you'll see that logo and in anything that's related to this ordinance. Oops. I want to spend the most time kind of with our public involvement plan that we're looking at to bring forward and to get as much public input as we can. We're starting out kind of bringing forward in a review of what we've been doing. We had a meeting yesterday with our zoning study group, which essentially was the 4 different study groups together. There were parking, signage, zoning districts, and landscaping. All those groups came together yesterday, and we sat down and went through the review and started discussing the same things that you're seeing here, kind of getting an idea what we're looking at, and told them the process that we're going to be going through. So the same thing with you guys here today at the Land Use Committee. I want to give you an update, a quick review, so that you get a refresher on what we're trying to do. And then we're also going to do the same thing with Planning Commission. So again, what are we trying to head towards the adoption? What is it going to take? What kind of public involvement are we going to need? And what are we looking to do in order to do that? In September, we're going to roll out the full draft of the ordinance. So we're looking probably mid-September. We're going to start out with the study group. Also come back to the City Land Use Committee, to your committee here. Where is it? How do you review it? What is the best way to do that? It is a large document. How are we going to be able to give the public, council, planning commission, the study group, how are we going to give you the tools to be able to review it like you want to review it? And that's what we'll be working towards. So again, we'll be doing that with the study group, City Council Land Use, and Planning Commission and an informational. After that point, we're going to do a press conference to get it out to the public. It'll be on the website. We're going to go to an open house, get the information out to the public so that they can review it. In October, that's when we're going to try to roll out the zoning map. There will be changes. The changes are only from the respect to make it consistent with the changes that we've made to the regulations. So that somebody that has a certain type of zoning district, because we made changes, now all of a sudden they don't have a place in, with their zone, or it's a different type of a zoning district now, and the rules wouldn't fit. So we're going to make those changes, and of course we're going to want the public to review those things. If they've had one of their pieces of land, the zoning district is changing because of these changes. Again, we'll review that with the study group, with the City Council, Land Use Committee, Planning Commission, and then bring that out to an open house, press conference, and also there will be a place on the web through GIS that anybody can review their pieces of land to see if it's changed in their zoning districts, it changes. In November, we're going to come back to the study group, and also what we're looking at, and I'd like your input on this, at what point we go to the full City Council for informational. But we're thinking maybe this would be a good point to do that, and the full Planning Commission at their public meeting during the evening. At that time, we would be providing more information at the study group, being looking if there's any changes that need to be made, and then in December, then we would start to look forward to the public hearing process, the formal public hearing process with Planning Commission and City Council. We could draw it out, then we would be looking at adoption sometime in early January. By no means is that a set schedule. If there are comments that, hey, wait, we need to make some changes yet, we're certainly more than willing to take a little extra time. But we wanted to try to lay out a plan to show you how it could work. So we think that's important. For a study group, what they're really looking at, and they're the group that's going to be digging in a little more in depth, we spent an hour and a half yesterday. So a little more time for questions. And we think that's important for the public to do. It gives us some, it's a good cross-section of people around the community and gives us an idea, are we doing things right, or is there something we're missing? And so that's what really they're about. And we gave them basically the same information I'm giving you now about this. And really we're looking probably anywhere from 3 to 6 meetings, depending on, again, how much they want to dig into it and how many changes there might be. Now, what is Shape Places? Again, Shape Places is the comprehensive zoning update, and it's a context-based zoning ordinance and a major update of the current zoning ordinance from 1983. Now, the new zoning ordinance, if you want to look at it kind of in a nutshell, and I think for some people that's important. What are you doing? What are you trying to do here? We're trying, and the new zoning ordinance will provide more development options, consistent and predictable regulations, new or innovative site planning options, and a more user-friendly format. That's our goal. That's what we're working towards, and that's a lot of what Sioux Falls Comprehensive Plan told us through the public involvement process then too. And we're trying to stay true to that. So what is context-based zoning? Really, it still stays in concert with the district. That's where it starts. That's what the context of a neighborhood is in zoning, is that you stay, in this case, the district is the context, compatibility with its surroundings. All forms and uses within the district are generally compatible, and the districts must transition from higher and to lower compatibility districts in a way that maintains the neighborhood's context. So that's the first thing we look at is the districts. Now, well, it's something we've added that's a little bit new in how we kind of organize things, and this is going to help the user-friendly format, I think, a great deal. It also helps in other areas too, and that's the idea of form. And the form is a group of uses that essentially have comparable size and orientation. And all uses within a form generally have the same building size, setbacks, density, parking, signage standards. So everything in that form, they have the same sorts of things like that, the same standards. And that's where you can kind of interface into the zoning ordinance a little easier. Uses, there's in some types several or many uses within each form, but some of the uses are permitted as they are, or some uses might be a conditional use, and you're familiar with that, or there might be a permitted special use with additional standards for each of those uses. But uses are similar activities, and they're defined as such. Now again, what's important is that we stay consistent with the comprehensive plan, Shape Sioux Falls 2035. And we spent quite a bit of time on that back it was adopted in 2009. And with that, we also had an implementation section, and I just wanted to highlight that. In that section, in the zoning ordinance update, this update of the comprehensive plan includes many recommendations to the zoning ordinance. Last one was in '83. Since that time, numerous changes have been made, but the ordinance has clearly become outdated and lacks standards to meet the demands of new development trends. So that's what we're trying to do. It's been a long time. Development has changed. We need to make changes to keep up. In Chapter 5, which is Shape Places, we're staying in concert with that. Our intent was to create lively, secure, and distinctive places and to develop the form of the zoning ordinance standards. So we did that. We spent a lot of time with that. We had a group of people, very dedicated people. Councilor Staggers was on that group, and we spent a lot of time developing those standards. Again, those standards were moving forward into the zoning ordinance. The study groups, again, I mentioned earlier, landscaping, parking, signage, and zoning districts. We bring all those district study groups together so that they can see what's going on in each of their areas and in the full ordinance, and they're helping us through that process. Quickly, I'm going to go through some of these slides now very quickly. So if you see anything that you want me to go back to, we can do that. Conventional districts, what we have now, some of the issues, there's no mixed use options. There's too many conditional uses. That's some of the main things that we're seeing. We're going to take care of those things. Planned developments. There's 270 individual planned developments in the city right now. It's extremely hard to keep track of those. And when you look at them on the zoning map, you don't know what is what. And each PD requires a final development plan to go through Planning Commission, which takes some time. Overlay districts required in too many scattered locations around the city and are now causing some confusion, especially some of the older overlay districts, is what we're finding. And what we're proposing to do in the conventional zoning districts, we're allowing for more options for mixed uses, for instance, like live-work. That option, that district allows for office and for apartments in the same district, which that option we don't have right now. We also allow for district options for more density, a lot fewer conditional uses. We also, instead of that, have brought what we call buffer yards for transitions, for predictability, for this, so that they understand, so developers understand, here's what you will need to transition between two uses or two districts and forms and that might be somewhat more incompatible with each other, such as commercial and residential. You might have to provide a little bit of a buffer yard, which we do with conditional uses now, but now we would do it without that process of going through Planning Commission. It would be standardized. We also allow for master plans for signage, landscaping, and parking through alternative site plans. That option we don't have now. We moved to planned unit developments instead. There's 5 of them that we're offering. Mixed use, campus, and residential cluster developments. The residential cluster developments are higher density. The final development plans are staff reviewed instead of going through Planning Commission. Overlay districts. After we went through the whole process, we ended up with 1 overlay district, and that's the airport influence. All the rest of them we are suggesting to delete. We are instead bringing some of those standards into the conventional zoning districts, the buffer yards, things like that, that we think will make a lot more sense to people, and again, the consistency and the predictability. Quickly, some new districts that we have. Single family, we're bringing in a district called RT1, which allows single family homes and smaller lots with less setback. The RCD, residential cluster PUD, allows things like Z-lots, cluster subdivisions, again, real high-density single-family that we really don't allow right now. RT2 is townhomes on smaller lots with less setback. Again, we don't allow that now. S2 campus institutional, that's an encouraged planned campus developments for campus institutional developments, whether it's schools or hospitals or things like that. And we also would encourage those uses for more mixed-use options. I talked about the live-work, which is essentially apartments and offices in the same area. We also love the mixed-use district, like the Village PUD district. Very similar to the downtown, except in new areas, doing that same thing, high-density mixed-use. Pedestrian-oriented is more horizontal mixed-use, where you're allowing commercial, office, and residential all in the same area, just with some connections, pedestrian-friendly flow of connections, we think will work well. So that's a quick run-through. Like I said, I can run back through some of the other slides if you'd like me to, but I would entertain any of your questions after that.
Questions? Councilor Staggers.
Yes, Sam, in trying to redo our zoning ordinances and so forth, you know, from what you said, it looks like we want to have more flexibility for people when they use their own land, which I think is great. Just curious, though, if we got rid of our old ordinance, the 1983, and we institute this new one, are we going to have less words or more words? I mean,
I haven't actually done, because there's a few little changes left, but I haven't done the word count between the two. You know, if you want that, I can look at that. But I can tell you this, I can ensure you, if by taking away the PDs, I didn't bring the books over, because I brought them over to our study group yesterday, and just carrying them over to the library, I was like, I'm not doing that again, because they were really heavy. And 3 of those books are just PD regulations. We are conventionalizing every single PD is our goal.
Mm-hmm.
Just by that, I guarantee you we'll cut our ordinance in a quarter. Because it's just, so that because of that. Otherwise, I think it's going to be fairly similar in words or pages. So that'd be my.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Sway. Councilor Anderson.
Sure. Okay. Sam, you talked about 4 groups that are looking into this. Who are these 4 groups, and who do they comprise of?
Well, they're stakeholders, people that would be interested in the area, such as signage. There were some signage contractors that were involved in that. There's also some community people, business owners, landscaping contractors or business owners, parking people that, you know, business owners in that regard too, and developers. Zoning districts, we had a big cross-section in that study group, you know, all the way from planning commissioners and city representatives, community representatives, business owners, developers, things like that, yeah.
If I may. So has this gone in front of any of the subgroups that's like the council sits on, like a UDC, CCOG, or anything like that?
It has not gone through the MPO. It's, you know, most of the things that go through the MPO, as you're aware, are transportation related, and certainly could. If you're looking, and I would be receptive to, you know, any group. I think it should be open to absolutely any group in the community at large. So I don't want to close that down.
So you are saying we've already had some public input from different entities and businesses.
Yeah, you know, if you look at this entire process when we started it, you know, it goes all the way back to the Shape Sioux Falls comprehensive plan. And we started that process with a visual listening survey, and we took that very seriously, and we had 1,500 people that took that survey, whether it was through the internet or through meetings. And then we continued to have meetings with stakeholders and get the information out to the public, and we'll continue that process here too.
And how will these changes affect older neighborhoods that are already established and have their own unique issues as far as zoning?
Yeah, we want to preserve those neighborhoods as much as we can. If there's some areas that want to redevelop, that's very specific issues. But our goal is to preserve them the way that they are, unless there's a specific redevelopment plan for that area. So there are a lot of, and you'll see this with the zoning map, there are a lot of neighborhoods that were downzoned 30, 40 years ago. When I say downzoned, they were downzoned from a single-family district to a high-density multifamily area. We're looking to rectify that with this process.
Okay, thank you.
Sam, I'm not concerned, but what I see happening here potentially is a lot of angry constituents coming before this board, this committee, and also the city council potentially. How are you setting up some kind of some kind of a procedure to mitigate that?
Well, again, through that public involvement process, we'd be open to and believe we should have public meetings, open houses to, allow the people to come out to discuss those options. Also, it should be very visible on the website, someplace where, people can go to, again, review because this isn't something that's easy to review at an open house. Sometimes it might be good, and we're going to give a lot of different options. If they want to review it just at this level here, this slide I have up here, we're going to give them that option. If they want to review it in more summary detail of the standards, we're going to give them that option. If they want to review it in very, very, very deep detail, they can also do that. Those options are going to be available. But again, I think it's just offering as many public opportunities as possible.
I think that'll be very, very important in this procedure and the process. However, I still see people being apathetic about it until it starts to affect them, like when they sell their house or when something comes down and it affects them directly, or they find out that they're now in a different zoning neighborhood, or their neighborhood has been zoned for multi housing, and it was a single family before, and they didn't even know about it, even though it was sent to them, and all of a sudden we're up in arms.
Yep.
And so there's got to be a way, and I'm not saying what you're doing is wrong. That's not my point. But we've got to find a way to make sure that these property owners are given every opportunity, and that they are not given every opportunity, that they are told rather than given every opportunity. They need to be told that this stuff is happening.
Sure.
Would that be a good way to put it?
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, and we'll certainly make sure
Okay.
that happens. One point to make sure that that anything that we change zoning district-wise, again, we're trying to stay that it's neutral to the development they have now.
Right.
But
Right.
That's our general goal.
Good. Anything else? Well, we thank you, and we wish you luck, because this is not going to be another week. You won't be done with this, right?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to vicious cats and dogs. No, dogs, I'm sorry. And, Keith, you're going to give us a presentation, I guess?
Keith Allenstein, Assistant City Attorney. It's interesting you actually mentioned that it is important to keep in mind that when we talk about these things, it is usually dogs, but what we're proposing here would apply to any animal.
Any animal, right?
I wasn't at the meeting on July 30th, but as I understand it, the committee wanted us to draft some language in a couple of specific areas. One of the things, and we'll get into the details here, but one of the things that we were asked to look at was to close some loopholes in the vicious animal ordinances, and then also look at a failure to report or kind of a leaving the scene type of language there. So let me look at, I presented you with two different proposals. Let me go through the parts where they're similar first, and then I can talk about the distinction between the two. The first portion where they're similar is in subsection
Keith, can I
B.
ask you to move the mics up and then maybe be a little closer to them?
First section is
Thank you.
where they're the same is under subsection B there, where we would remove the 5-day and add a 15-day allowance for people to come into compliance when their animal is declared vicious. The reason for that is that presently, if an animal is declared vicious, they can address that through an administrative appeal hearing. They have 15 days to make that decision if they want to appeal or not. So it would seem to make sense that time period would be the same. Otherwise, you're requiring them to come into compliance before their decision about where they want to appeal or not is up. They can always choose to comply and then appeal if they want. Important to note that even though we're giving them 10 extra days here from what we were giving them before, the person does not get the animal back until they're in compliance, whether they appeal or not. So that animal stays in the custody of the Animal Control and Sioux Falls Police Department out at the Humane Society until that comes into compliance. Hopefully you have everything in front of you. Not everything's here on this copy. There's a section there.
We don't have anything in front of us. Or do we have it on Skype? Or Sire, rather? Okay. And I don't have that in front of me, but go.
Okay. The second sections there, which should be on here, deal with the, is it on there?
Just 1 second. Do you have it?
I'll double check on it, but I will double check on that.
Yeah, I didn't see it either when I was checking.
Well, I can just let you know.
Why don't you give us an overview right now as Jim is looking for copies maybe for us?
Okay. The second part where both copies are similar is in the section regarding impounding the animal. Presently, it just says that if a dog is found off property, that gives us the right to impound. The change is to allow us to impound if we find it not in compliance with any particular section. The most obvious example is one of the requirements is a person get liability insurance. If that were to lapse, the Sioux Falls Police Department Animal Control Division is now doing, is it biannual, 6 month? 6-month checks to make sure that people still have that insurance and still carrying it. If we were to find someone not in compliance, we'd like to have the right to impound that animal, and then they're brought before the court to show cause why they should or shouldn't get it back, or why that animal should or shouldn't be destroyed. Also, section in there to clear up, presently it just says that they have to carry liability insurance. We want to clarify that be animal liability insurance. It's fairly obvious in there, but just to make sure that that's clear. Then comes to the portion there that where the two sections differ. This version here simplifies things quite a bit. Presently, we have basically two sections in our ordinance. The first of which talks about animal attacks that occur on public property, streets, sidewalks, and any other public property. The second section, which would be deleted in this version, discusses attacks on private property. The problem is that it really only describes attacks on private property of the dog owner. The loophole that's created here potentially is if you're on your own property or some other private property and a dog comes onto that property and bites you, there is arguably a loophole in our ordinance to cover that type of situation. This version here would just simply replace subsection 2, just take out that reference to private property on the dog owner itself, and just stick any private property up in the first section. So regardless of whether it happens on public or private property, the animal control sergeant, the chief of police, or his or her designee would have the ability to declare that animal vicious. This one simplifies it a little more.
Mm-hmm.
On this version, if you prefer, what we tried to do was to clarify that subsection 2 is talking about the situation where the bite occurs on the property owner's or the dog owner's property or animal owner's property, and then subsection 3 in this would attempt to address all other private property. There are still some potential loopholes. If you look in subsection 2, it still requires that if you're a person who comes onto that person's property, the dog owner's property, you're only protected if you're a mailman, meter reader, serviceman, journeyman, delivery man, or other employed person, those types of categories. So if, for instance, a religious group or a door-to-door salesman or something were to come onto your property, ring the doorbell, the dog would come out and bite you, you potentially would still have a loophole here. Kids trick-or-treating, coming up to a door, pushing the doorbell, a dog comes out, we would be a little bit hamstrung to be able to declare that animal vicious under this proposal, potentially still. So that's why the simpler version was also presented. It would be our recommendation that you go with the simpler version of these two. So. Both proposals do still leave intact a section in this particular version here. It's subsection 4, and the other one it would be subsection 2, that an animal cannot be declared vicious if you're committing a willful trespass or tormenting or teasing the dog and those types of circumstances. So that would still protect you as a landowner if someone is trespassing on your property or doing something malicious to your dog and it bites them, you're still protected under either one of these versions. So that's the versions basically stay the same other than that portion there.
So the difference between, this is the one we're dealing with and this is the old one, is that it?
I can't see which one you have there, but
They're both 7.3.
yeah, one should be listed like 1300 and one's 1301.
Yeah. 1300, 1301. Okay, they're both.
Yeah, 1300 is the longer version that tries to split out the different types of private property. 1301 is the one that just removes the reference to the private property of the animal owner and other private property and just makes it
Got it.
a distinction there where
It
it doesn't matter if it's public or private. It just allows animal control to declare that dog vicious.
Okay. Yes.
I'd like to apologize to Mr. Allenstein. We did receive the documents. It's my fault they are not attached. I will get those attached after the meeting.
Thank you. Anything else?
That's
it?
all I have. That's what we were asked to look at, so I'm willing to answer any questions.
Okay, comments or questions? Michael, if you'd like to speak, you could.
Yeah, the one other thing, I kind of briefly mentioned it, but at the tail end of this, we did include language in there, basic to require a person who has an animal bite incident to report to police and also remain on scene until either the police department and/or animal control arrives. Basically, I took the sections of city ordinance and/or state statute dealing with motor vehicle accidents, and where it said motor vehicle accident, I inserted animal bite incident. I mean, I had to make some other changes, but that is what it is modeled after. So it would require that you, one, stay on scene, also exchange information with the other person. That actually came as a request from a citizen whose granddaughter was bitten. The dog owner took off. We were able to find the dog owner, but it's a situation that occurs quite a bit, and sometimes maliciously and sometimes not. Sometimes somebody thinks it's not a big deal and they just leave, and then it turns into a bigger deal later on, and you have trouble tracking down that animal. I don't know if you see the number of press releases that go out that say we have an animal bite incident and we're looking for this animal. It happens a fair amount of time.
Yep. Comments? Councilor Karski.
Failure to remain on the scene of an animal bite like that, if they just pick up and leave, what is the fine?
Generally, for any city ordinance that doesn't have a corresponding state statute, and there isn't in this case, the judges set forth a fine and bond schedule each year. It would be a $95 fine, or the officers have discretion in any situation, whether it be a motor vehicle accident or this, to make it a court appearance required. So best case scenario for you would be that you could just send in a check for $95. I would think that depending on the circumstances, if someone maliciously left, then the officers would always have the discretion to issue them a citation, require them to appear in front of the judge. And then it's up to the judge whether it would be, how much of a fine it would be. All city ordinances are, unless otherwise stated, are up to $200 plus $60 in court costs.
Yep. Continue.
Just one more question. If we have an animal that's been declared vicious, or maybe has bitten 1, 2, 3 other times before, do we have any sort of action that we can take? If an animal is declared vicious and bites again, what's the repercussion to the animal owner?
Well, if they're in compliance with our ordinance, that's going to be difficult to do, because anytime, if an animal's been declared vicious and that decision is not overturned, anytime that animal is even attended off property on a leash, it has to be muzzled. So that shouldn't happen, unless it were happen to someone to come onto that property and get the person to get bit there.
But the animal gets loose, something happens, somebody leaves a gate open,
Once that, presently under our ordinance right now, even without any change, that person is summoned into court to show cause why that animal should not be destroyed for not being in compliance with the dog being at large. The animal being at large would be out of compliance. It has to be attended by a person 18 or older anytime off property. It has to be muzzled. It has to be leashed. So if it were, even if it's the meter reader or something that comes in and lets that dog loose, it technically is not a defense. If that animal's found off property, it's impounded. It's kept there until the court decides whether it should be destroyed or whether you should get it back.
That's how it is
That's
now,
how it reads
or that's
now.
what we're...
That's how it reads now if it's off property. What we would also like to do, the change we're making, that we'd like to make is for that situation to also occur where we can impound the dog and have the person come for an order to show cause, is what it's called, before the court, if we find them out of compliance with the insurance requirements or any other requirements. Their kennel it was okay at one point in time, and they've either let it deteriorate or some other, or they, whatever the deficiency is, we'd like to be able to have the ability to impound that dog, bring them into court, and have the judge order have them convince the court why they should get that dog back or why it should be destroyed.
Anything else? What would be the wishes of the committee? Councilor Anderson.
I want to congratulate the police department and city attorney's office. I think that we now have an ordinance that has a little teeth in it, and it's pointed in the right direction at the owners. I feel that's where it necessarily needs to go to. I'll make a motion to move this to city I guess.
I'll second it.
Just for clarity, aren't those two different proposals?
Yeah, you would have to make, they are two different proposals. The very beginning portion is different in 1300 and 1301.
Thank you.
Our recommendation would be for, I believe it's 1301, which keeps it a little simpler, just allows whether it occurs on the street, sidewalk, public, or private property, if it fits the characteristics as described in a vicious mode of attack, then animal control can declare that vicious.
With that in mind, if I could make a suggestion, I would like to see us all take a look at these, read them a little bit more closely, seeing as how we haven't had a chance to do that, and then come back at our next meeting and look at these together, just the four of us, and make a recommendation. I don't even know that we would need the city's attorney's office here, but let's make a recommendation which one we'd like to go with, and then move it forward from that point. Would that be okay with the council? Yeah. Or with the committee?
And I can certainly be here in case you have any questions, if you let me know.
It would be great if you would be. Yeah, if you would like to do that, we'd put it on the agenda for next time. Thank you. We'll do that. Okay. Taking care of the dogs, we're taking care of zoning. Now we've got the TIFs. Notice I didn't put you in with the dogs.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
You bet.
Somebody else will do that for you, I'm sure. Good afternoon, Darren Smith, Director of Community Development. We don't have a presentation. This is really just a request to have what I would consider more of an informal conversation on where we've been, where we're at with TIF policy, and where we think it's going, or I guess what you can expect from us going forward as an office. Again, to recap some numbers I've shared with you before, we've approved 6 tax increment finance or TIF districts in the past just under 2 years. In the 20 years before that, the city of Sioux Falls had approved 9, and only 6 of the 9 actually became active and came to fruition in terms of the projects. We came to this city council several months ago and requested a work session that we had in the other room. We spent a good hour and a half or 2 hours talking about tax increment finance districts, kind of the history and a 101 and so forth. And we wanted to do that, and we wanted to follow up again today, because what we see is not only a significant uptick in development activity the last couple of years, which I think is a really good sign for the community and the economy, but we are continuing to have these projects come in and request TIF districts, or want to talk about TIF districts. And so, and they are a variety of projects. In the past, I know what all of us really have known traditionally is that these TIF districts have been approved exclusively in downtown, in what we've established as downtown boundaries. And we deviated from that when we approved the Sanford Sports Complex TIF district in the last year, and we said to this council openly that we do want to look for what we consider to be those unique opportunities outside of downtown that would rise to the level of creating a TIF district to support them, and really rising to the level and having the bar set high means that they're special in some way. They are unique in terms of the economic impact they can have for the community, whether that's significant sales tax revenue generated, or quality of life, or tourism taxes that are generated, and so forth. And again, that's why we felt the Sanford Sports Complex rose to that level, and we know there could be more going forward. But what we also wanted to talk about tonight was just as we go forward with some of these TIF requests, and by the way, the 7th TIF district that we've worked on in the last couple of years, the 7th one for the Whittier rent-to-own single-family housing development is making its way through the process now. As you know, we were at this committee getting your approval for that some time ago. It's gone through Planning Commission. We would anticipate it coming to the City Council potentially as early as September. The 8th TIF district project that we've had our hands on in the last couple of years is proposed as a retail apartment development at the old Williams Pipeline, what we refer to as the old Williams Pipeline site just south of 41st Street. That is still making its way through the process. It's really just in our office at this point and us working with the development folks with that project, but then it will be going to the Planning Commission and on to the City Council, we think, very likely. So again, there's this flurry of activity, and with those TIFs and others going forward, what we do want to put on your radar is that in the past, when we've approved a TIF district, really all of the increment generated over the life of that TIF, and that's usually 15 or 20 years, the eligible expenses associated with that project in terms of TIF districts and state law, the eligible expenses typically have met or even exceeded the increment generated. So they've maxed out the TIF, especially on those downtown projects. But what we want to, I guess, communicate is that going forward, we don't think that that will always be the case or should be the case. Now, on downtown projects, I think it very likely could be or even would be because there's so many unique challenges downtown. The contaminated soils that we almost always run into with projects down here, the cost of property and so forth. But when we get outside of downtown, I think it's likely there will be projects we bring forward and we'll recommend that you support and approve the establishment of a TIF district, but it may not be that we would recommend approval of all the expenses that are being requested by the developer. And again, the standard that we've used and we'd like to continue to use for the most part is reimbursing for those expenses involved in a project that are somehow extraordinary in nature. They're unique at that site. They disadvantage that site in terms of development versus other properties in town. And that's how TIF has really been used historically, and that's how we'd like to see it continue. Now, I would say state law was changed with TIF districts a couple years ago, so we are not held to that standard anymore. We can identify what the projected increment is over the life of a TIF, and we can hand that, so to speak, to a developer over the life of the TIF for that project and call it an economic development grant. So no longer do we have to itemize specifically those eligible expenses for reimbursement per state law. But that doesn't mean we don't think it's a good idea to still look at that and focus on that. So again, if there are special projects, whether that be the Sanford Sports Complex or others, we'd certainly leave the door open to having that conversation. But we, I guess, just wanted to make it clear that some of the projects we bring forward, we may be standing in front of you recommending approval of a TIF district and recommending approval to reimburse certain expenses with that site, but not carte blanche all of the increment if we don't feel it's really necessary to level the playing field at a site, if that makes sense. And again, each project, each TIF district is unique. We'll explain all these in great detail as we go through the process, whether it be Land Use Committee, Planning Commission, and City Council at that time. So these are really more generic, broad statements. But again, we know what we're working with now for TIFs coming down in the pipeline, and we have a sense of potential future TIFs. You know, we're working with developers on different projects now where they're asking about TIF and inquiring. May never come to fruition, but they may, and I'm seeing that, and we're seeing it as a staff. Some that we could see supporting a TIF district, but not carte blanche for, you know, all of the increment. And we do have to be mindful that the increment and these property tax dollars, you know, it does impact more than just the city of Sioux Falls. We're impacting the school district, the county, and the city And they're not going backwards with their property tax revenue. These are dollars that they don't have today, and they wouldn't have if that development didn't happen. But it is dollars that they're not getting over the life of the TIF. Those additional dollars they would not get until the TIF expires, if that makes sense. Brent, I might just ask, did I miss anything that we had talked about wanting to communicate here? Okay, thank you. Does the council have any
Any questions for
questions on that?
the committee members? Yes, Councilor Sagers.
Yeah, this is just a technical question because somebody asked me this question and I couldn't really give them an answer. Okay, so we have a TIF coming into existence. The developer gets money. Then what happens? I mean, okay, you know, we still owe this money now. Where's that located at in a city budget, or where's?
Yep,
what
I'm going to give
happens?
you I'm just going to give you kind of the layman's terms and the process, and that's how I like to understand it. Basically, what happens is with a typical TIF, what we call developer-funded TIF, the developer will put all the money into the project like they normally would, whether that's their own dollars, investor dollars, or bank dollars. They put it in, and we simply reimburse them over the life of the TIF. So let's just say you have a 20-year TIF. When they pay their property taxes each year, those dollars go to where they would normally go, and then they make their way back into an account where they are then redistributed. So they could come to the city, and then we deliver those to, or send those on to the developer, or a lot of times it'll go directly to the bank. So the money is not fronted by the city. The developer does what he or she would normally do with any project. They front the dollars, but they do get reimbursed over the life of that TIF each year after they pay their property taxes. So basically, they're getting a portion of their property taxes back, if you want to look at it that way.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Yes, Councilor Anderson.
Darren, Brent and I and you also have had numerous discussions about TIFs. Just my own feelings on these. We have to be extremely careful as we move forward with these TIFs. You know, the ones that were used in the downtown area, there had been multiple owners, and a lot of those owners could not be found again or be held liable for some of the damages that they left on those properties. But as we move outward into the city, that's a whole different story. And I hope that is one of the factors that we look at before these TIFs get back here.
Yeah, I would agree with you, and that probably sums up well, I think, in part why we're here, because we do feel that way, and we want to communicate that to you. We also want to make it clear that we are pro-development. Obviously, our office is pro-development, but and we want to continue to be pro-development. And we've really had some unique projects come in that we just felt strongly are unique and provide significant economic impact for the community, and we'd support those. But again, going forward, the way we do TIFs doesn't have to look like it's looked in the past, whether that be going outside of downtown or giving all of the increment back to the project. And so it'll make more sense when we bring each individual project in than talking in broad terms like I'm attempting to here. But I guess long story short, yes, we want to be careful with these. We want them to be held to, these projects to be held to a high standard. And also, I should say this, I'd be remiss if I didn't say this. Even with the Sanford Sports Complex, again, saw it as a special opportunity for economic impact for the community in a number of ways. But even with that, the expenses that we identified for reimbursement, I believe, were exclusively in the form of infrastructure on that site, or what I would consider public amenities or public benefit via amenities. Some examples of that would be, some of the biggest expenses were the streets out there, and keeping in mind also that where that one was unique, the city, you know, we invested heavily in several football fields and football/soccer fields. And so obviously we had to make sure the public had good access to those, and we wanted to make sure they were utilized. So even with that one, you know, we really allowed only infrastructure and what we felt were public benefit amenities to be reimbursed out there.
Anything else? I would have one comment I guess I would like to make at this point, and that is that I would encourage you to put in writing what those unique type parameters are, not too specific, but put them in writing some way.
Yeah.
So that, and then share them with us for this reason, because they're going to come to us eventually.
That's right.
And we're going to have to vote on them.
Yep.
And we would then be able to ask you,
Yep.
you know, why, Darren, is this unique from this standpoint, this standpoint, this standpoint, without then you'd have an easier job of telling us why.
Yeah.
Why it was. It would make your job easier
Absolutely.
in the long run, and would make our job easier too.
Yeah, I think absolutely.
I would encourage you to do that.
Yeah.
I like the idea, but I think if you put something in writing for yourself too, it
Yeah.
would be it would make things.
I think it may provide a nice guide for all of us. And
there you
and look, there maybe is a project here and there that's, you know, is gray or slips outside of those, but we'll do our best to identify what we believe, you know, when we say special or unique, what that means to us.
That's right. Exactly.
Yep, very good. We can do that.
Anything else?
Well, just very briefly, item D, the
Update?
economic development updates. Again, there is a lot going on. There's a lot that we could stand up here and talk about, but I've really just boiled it down to 2 or 3 things that I did want to share that are more probably big picture. One is later this year and into early 2013, you'll hear us talking about updating the new downtown plan, what will be the 2025 downtown plan. We have the 2015 downtown plan now that was put together and approved about 10 years ago. And so, believe it or not, we're inching closer to 2015, and we think it's time to look at updating that. So we'll start putting that in place later this year, early 2013. That will involve a lot of people, including city council members and others. It'll probably be a full year process, or 9 to 12 months, and then we'll be coming back with a new downtown plan, but we're looking forward to that. Another plan we're working on is the what we call the Event Center Area Master Plan, and we're planning right now to present that to the City Council at the September Event Center monthly update to the City Council, which I believe is Tuesday, September 24th. And so we've been working on that for several months, talking to lots of developers, and you've heard us touch on that a little bit before. And there's a lot going on with that too. So we'll be bringing that in. And then finally, we're also, in the next few weeks, we think and we hope to be doing some soil testing at Elmwood Golf Course. And then if depending on the results there was a landfill there many, many years ago, and we've been told is just a typical household landfill, so we'll see. But depending on the results, we feel it's likely that we would be looking later this year, possibly November, at moving forward with a redevelopment request for proposal, or RFP, for a hotel on that site. I think we may have touched on this in passing or more kind of high level in the past, but it's one that's really been on our radar for a couple of years, and we feel that now there is interest. There are firms out there and flags, hotel flags or chains that specialize in this. And really, that's who brought it to our attention. This wasn't something we came up with. A couple years ago, or a year and a half ago, one of these groups contacted us and just said they really like Elmwood. It meets all their criteria, what they look at, population, vibrant growing community, close to the airport, public golf course close to the airport. And so that's when we really started looking at it, starting to research this, and but we weren't sure how strong the demand was. And so now it appears there is strong demand, and some of these folks are asking us to consider moving forward. So as with any RFP, you know, we get those proposals or a proposal in. If it's something we don't like, obviously we can always we can always reject it. But some of the things that we've been talking about would be very, I just think very exciting and I think very beneficial. You could have a hotel on that site in close proximity physically to the clubhouse, possibly connected with the clubhouse out there, and their software systems would be intertwined, so you could book your hotel room and your tea time at the same time online or when you call or whatever. They work that way together, and obviously we'd pursue something that would be beneficial for the city financially and also for the golf course. So again, just kind of put that on your radar. It's possibly a few months away, and that's only if we don't get any surprises with what we find in the soil out there.
Super.
Any questions?
We get a bonus if they sign up in January?
Well, I keep asking about bonuses, Counselor, but they don't do those in city government, so I should have asked that before I took the job, right?
Yeah. Anything else from the committee? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, now open discussion. Is there any open discussion from the Land Use Committee? Any of you gentlemen? Okay. Here. Oh, yes, go ahead.
At last week's city council meeting, we had some discussion regarding due process regarding property owners' rights, et cetera.
Thank you.
When it came to assessing for cleanup of property, tree trimming, lawn cutting, et cetera. And I guess I would like to hear from probably our city attorney at our next month's meeting about how that due process is afforded to our public and what rights those people do have.
The rest of the committee would like to hear about that? Good. I think we've already contacted the city attorney, or he's been in touch with me, and I think we pretty well got that set up for next time. So they'll be here making a presentation on due process for those kind of things. Entering property, when we have the right to do that, when we do not have the right to do that, trees, trimming of trees, and all that kind of thing. So that'll be a good discussion. I think that will be very good. So thank you for reminding me of that. Yes.
Yes, that'll be Paul Bangford from the City Attorney's Office will be giving the presentation.
Thank you. Anything else for the good of the committee? Okay. With that in mind, I will adjourn the committee. Thank you.